Good morning, everybody. My name's Sarah McAllister, and I'm going to talk to you today about the Feng Shui of powerful cities. And I just want to introduce the style of Feng Shui that I practice. It's the Chue style Feng Shui, and it's a unique style which blends a intuition-based approach and understanding that the energies of the natural world are sentient. Okay, so the Yin Feng Shui that our master teaches us is very much to do with the spirit of the land. It's very much to do with the animals, the spirits that occupy that land. But primarily, there is also a technical approach to the Feng Shui as well, which is based on the compass. And this gives us a variety of techniques that we can use to look at the space and to achieve a harmony between an intellectual approach to the Feng Shui and a more earthy style, because some of the Feng Shui that we engage with is actually quite shamanic. When we're out on the form school courses with Grandmaster Chan, it can all get very, very wacky, so I'd love to talk to Christian at some point about all those types of things. But what I'm talking to you about today is based on cities and a larger scale approach to Feng Shui, if you like. And I visited Tehran in 2008. I was lecturing on Feng Shui at a conference, and I took the opportunity to check out a little bit about the landscape. And what we notice is the water here is in the north of Tehran, and here are a range of mountains, and then you have the Tehran city itself. Now, in Feng Shui, if you have the mountain blocking the water, then it's preventing the city from benefiting from the water, because in Feng Shui, water is very key to the success of a city. It's very key to the success of our human body, and especially fresh-flowing, free-moving water is recognized even by architects as being very healthy for us. It emits negative ions, okay? So it's really important that a city can use the water, as we call it, and not be blocked from the water. And if you're looking at Feng Shui urban planning, you need to take into consideration the climate in which you're studying your subject, okay? So Tehran is very, very hot in the summer and very, very cold in the winter. And you can see here the shape of the mountains. It's quite rough, okay? They're not smooth, pretty mountains, all right? They're quite rough. So that in itself indicates that there is a type of qi that is quite, it can be a little bit disturbed or active. It's quite active. It's very activating, okay? And the city itself goes straight up to the mountains. You can see here how close the city is to the mountains and how sort of higgledy-piggledy they are. They're not very smooth or the classic form of the mo-kuk shape, the nice round metal shape. And so there's no space in the city for the qi to collect, really. There's too much urbanization. But if you look back at the ancient times, the mountains were associated with spirits, okay? So the ancient settlers of Tehran would have had a connection with the mountain because of the height of the mountain, and they would have benefited to some extent from the mountain energy. But today, the urbanization has been allowed to get out of control a bit. And you can see that the water in surrounding Tehran is not, it's not particularly well managed by the city, okay? It needs more natural water, because particularly in a hot climate, you need the water to balance. The water and fire don't necessarily always clash, okay? Sometimes you need the water to calm down the fiery qi. And Tehran itself has a very passionate society. It's very, on the inside, inside people's homes, they're very, very passionate about their beliefs, they're very passionate about their love. It's an interesting society. And yet, look where the mountains are primarily located. They're in the north. And if we look at the early heaven sequence, which is what we use when we look at landscape and the natural world, we look at the early heaven rather than the late heaven. You'll see that in the north, which is upside down for most of us, but in the north is the mother position. Okay, so if we look back at all the mountains, they're blocking the position of the woman. In the south, you have the fire triagram, which is related to the man, and to the south of Tehran is hot desert again, so it's too much heat. So the men are very fiery. Too much heaven chi can lead to a type of zealousness as well. Oops. So it didn't take me long. When I landed at the airport, within about half an hour of reaching the city, I was on the outskirts. I saw the mountains, and I said immediately, the wealthy people will be living up near the mountains, and it's true. That's where there's the protection, but as I was saying, there's not enough space for the storage, but there is still the protection, okay? But the problem is there's very little natural water, so they have to use a lot of artificial water features to green and cool the city. That's very, very important, because if it's too hot, it can be too oppressive. Now, I found out that there's talk of a relocation of the capital, and I thought I'd have a quick look. This is a very quick look at the options. They have Shahrud, but that's also blocked by the mountains to the north, and it has a hostile desert to the south, so I don't think that's a good choice. There's Semnan, not so close to the mountains, but it's over-reliant on irrigation. Again, there's a problem getting the water into the city. So Esfahan is another option. I don't know whether they've chosen anything just yet, but I could find out. But Esfahan would be a good choice, in my opinion, because it has useful water. It's got a lovely river running through the center. It has a lovely flat, lush river plain that holds the Chue. There are some mountains, but they're far away enough not to be oppressive. And it used to be a capital in former times. And now it's the third largest city in Iran, and it has a good manufacturing industry, etc., etc. And it has some space for the city to expand, because in Feng Shui city planning, you have to look at the ins and outs, all the requirements, the social requirements, the industrial requirements. It's not just all about the Feng Shui. You have to make it practical as well. So the next city I want to show you is Kyoto, and I was there in July, and it's known as the spiritual capital of Japan. There's me in my sort of holiday mode, and this is the Golden Temple, and I found that a jaw-dropping experience, really. I couldn't believe how amazing it is. It's a very beautiful temple. So Kyoto, again, we're talking about principles of mountains and rivers. It's surrounded by mountains, or rather hills, actually, and it has what's called a rice bowl form, okay? So what this means is that the Chue can collect within the city, okay? And it means that the inhabitants will never go hungry, okay? It also has a successful use of the water. There's moats around the old shogun castle. There's a couple of rivers going through the city. There's 3 water combination that we like in Feng Shui. But Tokyo and Osaka actually became the capitals rather than Kyoto. So Kyoto was powerful at one point, but then was surpassed by Tokyo. And we can look in the form and see that there's a large expanse, a large lake up in the northeast of Kyoto, which nourishes the spirit gate of the city. And it is a very spiritual city. It is a city with the highest ratio of temples. You'll literally have a modern block of offices, and then a tiny little temple, and then another, say, a restaurant, a modern restaurant or something. It's really quite an extraordinary city. And if you can see up here, there's an enormous Buddha. This is in the northeast of Kyoto. Now, northeast, again, not just in the Feng Shui tradition, but in many cultures, the northeast is the spirit gate. In the Indian traditions, the Hindi people will cite their shrine in the northeast. And also in the Native American cultures, the northeast is the spirit position. So Kyoto has a lot of spiritual protection. And I don't know if you can see this, but there's a man-made character in the northwest hills which looks very, very similar to tin or heaven. And that's in the northwest position where the father trigram is. And you can see, unlike Tehran, the hills here are smoother and they're greener. Okay, that's very important in Feng Shui because you don't want the natural topography to be too ragged. Okay, because that can produce a sort of rough mentality. Whereas these are very smooth and gentle, and it encourages smoothness and harmony. So quite literally, the people follow the chi of the environment. And in the late heaven sequence, this is when you talk about more man-made like buildings or like the image cut into the side of the hillside. That's a man-made action. Okay, so you can analyze it more precisely with the later heaven sequence, which people normally use for the inside of a property. And it's just worth pointing out that all these trigrams are associated with body parts. Okay, they're associated with family members. So if there's a problem in one of these areas, you can read the problem to be associated with that family member or that body part. If there's a problem in the southwest, for instance, it could cause womb problems or stomach problems. And that applies just as much to a city, but also the early heaven sequence. So in Feng Shui, we're always considering both, really. So you can see that the mountains are gentler. There's more connection to the river, to the water. There's some very pretty little canals. The water, again, it's got a nice tempo. It's not too fast. It's not too slow. It's a good balance between mountain and water, which is what you're looking for in a successful urbanization. And these are some quite simple little Feng Shui decisions perhaps going on here. At each crossroads, there's effectively an octagon that is created because they've actually planed off the corners of the buildings. So that's really quite interesting. You don't have this uncomfortable corner, okay? And the same applies in the back streets as well. So not only in the center of Tokyo do you have this where they've decided not to sacrifice, you know, too much of the land. So just for profit and gaining more space, they've actually had some sort of understanding that the shachi from the corners, it's best to plane them off. So I thought that was quite sweet. And again, in the back streets, it's every corner is octagonal. It's quite funny, at every crossroads. So just quickly, the Osaka here is more able to use the water, whereas Kyoto is a little bit further inland, okay? So Osaka outgrew Kyoto, basically, and so did Tokyo, because you can see Tokyo is holding the water. So, the theme is the Feng Shui of powerful cities, but obviously people live in the cities. And the way we're trained is that if you create beauty, the people will love their environment and they'll love each other, okay? But if you create ugliness and utilitarianism, then the people will be fighting the urge to be selfish and destructive. People are very much influenced by their environment. So put somebody in a ugly looking environment and they won't look after it, okay? And I mean, Feng Shui is ultimately about love, and it's about the love and reverence of life, okay? For life, self and others. So it's not about sort of pot plants and interiors and things like that, although that can come into it. It is really about understanding how to align the human with the earth and the human with the heaven, and how to combine with your environment. So urban planners need to pay a little bit more attention, I feel, to the wealth that Feng Shui can offer, the wealth of knowledge that Feng Shui can offer. Because an expert can advise the urban planner on decision making, okay? So it's not just a question of the Feng Shui master coming along and saying, you must do this. It's a question of the right solution for the problem at hand, okay? So there's a lot of dialogue with engineers, planners, architects, council members. Urban planning can get quite complicated. So in terms of social housing, this is a project that was initiated by a colleague of mine, Marjorie Delaney, and we went to Glasgow. I can't say too much about it because there is some sort of confidentiality around it, but she's allowed me to use this plan, and what you see is 6 high-rise flats, okay? High-rise buildings, okay? So one was more problematic than the others, and we said, don't tell us, please don't tell us, we'll tell you which one is more problematic, okay? So anybody want to guess? Here's the site, a nice little fire shape point for you. Which one of these is going to be the most problematic? This one? That one? Yes. No. I'll give you a clue. This is sloping down towards this. So this one. Yeah, this was the most problematic, okay? Which is this. That's me on the 19th floor taking the picture of this building. So this one was the most problematic because all the Chue, you can see there's no landscaping at all. It's all crashing down, assaulting this building, basically. And this is just hilarious. I mean, health centre, yeah. So anyhow, so I was recently in Stockholm on an urban planning foray, and it's a very, very problematic estate. Look how much earth there is. Earth, 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 earth everywhere. There's no future, no Tamlong energy. There's no softness to the landscaping whatsoever. There's no love. you know, sometimes you can abandon the compass and just go, well, there's no beauty, you know. It doesn't matter what the compass tells you at this point. And here, it's all about comfort. You don't feel comfortable. This is a walkway through one of the social areas of another estate. And it's so crime-ridden that the shops actually board up their windows. So you can only see the goods as you go into the shop because the crime rate is so high, okay? So it's just, you don't feel comfortable at all. So how can you expect people to take care of their environment if that's how it's been designed? Okay, so good old compass. It still does have its uses. Anybody who is aware of natural Chue will know that the sunrise is completely different from the sunset. So by extension then, the directions of the compass have their own meaning. There's the 64 hexagrams, which are absolutely fascinating. The story behind the hexagrams is absolutely startling. And I can read sometimes, even on the phone, if a client phones me up, I think, oh, I bet you it's a mixed Chue house, because I just get, it's like I'm in a tunnel of information. And I get an image of the kwa that I'm working with. It's a very interesting universal code, the I Ching and the hexagrams. So this is what the compass is made up of, really. I mean, we have our basics, like the 8 directions. We have the 64 kwas here, and then it gets finer and finer and finer. And the more refined it is, the more accurate it is, the more personalized it is to a space. And the compass can show us so much information, particularly if we're not in our center. So we can rely upon the compass to give us that little bit of a clue as to what's going on. Sometimes we do intuit some of it, but it's really handy to use the compass. And this is a city, a town, a small town up in Scotland, and it has a very cramped centre. The centre is just very, the roads are all very small, the shops look as if they're from the 1950s. It's got a fascinating industrial heritage. However, when we look at the centre of the city, and we take the centre of the town as the town hall, which is like the psychic centre of the town, where the decisions are made. And we look at how the roads are feeding the city. So the roads are like arteries. The roads are like arteries, and even an urban planner will talk about arterial routes. So a city does have a heart, and it needs to be fed correctly. And our argument is that the quality of the Chue coming in from, I mean, first you have to assess which is the most powerful source of Chue, okay? So if there's traffic coming on one road, traffic coming on another, which is the most powerful? Well, it's going to be the one that's the most busy, okay? So this road coming in from Edinburgh was coming in from what we call Chue, which is pregnancy and needy, and it was in the direction of the double mountain, the rabbit. And the problem, one of the problems with Bowness was a high rate of teenage pregnancy. So already the Chue that they're bringing in to the city is speaking for the experience that the occupants are having. And then all the goods, the red is the good palaces, if you want to be so black and white about it. But I mean, the good palaces is where the Chue is actually leaving the city mostly. And then all the negative palaces, as we call them in classical Feng Shui, is actually being activated by the river. Okay, there's a huge, huge river. And again, water and the city is really important. There is no dialogue whatsoever between the city and the water. It's just, well, there's a whole case study that I've done around this, so there's more information. But however, the Romans, if you took the Roman centre, they had a far better idea, and that's often the case. You find, if you want clues, is look where the churches are, look where the old buildings are. They often have already picked the good qua, whether it's by luck or whether it's because they tapped in or they knew something. Quite often they're building with sacred geometry. So the old Roman camp had a far better command of the area. And then if you looked at the way the roads were feeding, so if you were to advise on this city, you'd say relocate your town hall up here and things would improve. So Linlithgow is only 10 minutes drive away, and it's completely different. The whole design of the city is far more elegant, it's more spacious, there's more flow. There's more connection to the water. There's a loch, okay? And you can see the loch from most of the town, in fact. And then if you look at the source of Chue, there's a big Chue mouth here. You've got a road, main road, and a railway. And it's in Cheongsang vitality. So it's a lot better. So London, the last couple of slides are based on London. And London is also a little bit similar to the Rice Bowl. The hills in the north hold the Chue and the hills in the south hold the Chue. And the river has a very nice tempo. It's not too fast, it's not too slow. And if you think that Feng Shui has nothing to do with you, then look again, because this is China, the natural landscape of China, what we call a Tanglong forest. It's not trees, it's actually mountains, okay? Not dissimilar from the City of London. Tanglong is all to do with youth, vitality, work, work, work. And it's also known as greedy wolf. So, banking, greedy wolf. So the shapes of the Feng Shui shapes you see in the environment just as you would see in the natural world. And it's interesting, children will always paint their home with a little, what we call lim chin, or a little triangle to indicate intelligence. And so this building in Canary Wharf is one of the better ones because it has the intelligence, okay, whereas the rest are just flat. I've got 1 minute 36 left, apparently. Okay, so these are all the shapes associated with the elements. And lastly, this is quite a nice little look at the 24 imperial heaven stars. And, oh gosh, you can't see them, can you? Okay, so we've taken, just quickly, we've taken Westminster as the centre, because that's where a lot of decisions are made in London. The City Hall, they might like to think they've got all the power, but they're actually in the position of the 8th warrior who assists the government. The City of London is in the Dragon Castle, and also the Jade Leaf, which is associated with money. And the Dragon Castle is the leader position for the 8th Fate. And it's interesting that in the 8th Fate there has been so much development of London, of the East End and the city. So many Tamlongs. 8th Fate is all about the wood Chue, so it's all making sense. Then you have Camden and Robbery and Kill. Hackney and Earth Curse. And the people of Regent's Park and Primrose Hill enjoy the, goodness me, what earth is it? I think it's the Imperial Crown and the Jade Seal, that's right, Jade Seal. And then the Buckingham Palace is very well located in the King's Carriage, no less, so that's quite appropriate. Oh yes, and then Chelsea and Belgravia are in the treasure hall and the golden branches, which is all about the money. So Feng Shui for cities. So what do we need to learn? Careful selection of sites for new cities, meticulous in your choice of the roads and the entrances because it makes a difference. Understand that the spaces between the buildings are just as important as the buildings themselves because it's all in dialogue. Maintain the elemental balance and especially avoid the fire-water clash. Don't have too many extremes of height or size. Channel the water and keep it clean because we don't want any dirty water because it attracts drugs, alcoholism, workaholism. Have a powerful government building to provide good leadership. And decision makers and those holding the purse strings would be wise to take a closer look at what classical Feng Shui expertise can offer in terms of both diagnostic ability and curative potential. Thank you very much.